With me today is Corey Timchuk from Farm King Industries. Welcome, Corey, and thank you for taking the time to join me today. Can you tell me a little bit about the mower we are demoing in this video?
The mower being demoed in the video it's a YT750 triplex mower, and it's basically got three of our 7-foot finishing mowers set on a single deck style with basically a yoke deck design. So the three mowers work together to basically cover a footprint of about, well, it's close to 20 feet, and your maximum horsepower requirement for a tractor to pull this mower is a 50 horsepower tractor. These mowers are a basic finishing mower that we have in our lineup, and obviously three of them work together to basically independently roll over flowing terrain and provide a nice manicured professional trim cut, I would say.
Right on. So you say this type of mower is designed for mostly finishing applications. So what type of customers would best benefit from this type of mower?
Yeah, you're looking at basically, cities, parks, golf courses, as well as government department and transportation agencies. This particular size, it's 19 feet, so it's a fairly large setup for finishing mower. So your large acreage owners, sod farms, anyone who has a large area of grass to cut in a low amount of time, because going at about 5 to 6 miles an hour with this mower, you can roughly do 15 to 20 acres in an hour. So, and this being our 19-foot size, we have three other sizes as well, an 11, 13, and a 16-foot size as well, that obviously have lower horsepower requirements per tractor. But those sizes, the 11-foot size could be your smaller acreage farmer. But primarily at this size, you're looking at golf courses, sporting areas, football fields, large parks, that sort of application and customer base.
And what are the regular maintenance requirements for this mower?
Basically, in going around the machine, you're going to want to daily check out your tires. Your tire pressure should be at 30 psi. You definitely don't want any flats. Your wheel bolts as well, you want to make sure they're tightened. Daily, you want to check out your blades and your blade pans just to make sure there's no wear on the blades, no damage to the blades, the blade pans even. As well, you want to check out the main CV, your main CV6 PTO driveline that's coming in. Fairly expensive piece of equipment. There's grease bearings at the cross and on the ends that you have to grease pretty much daily. Every 8 to 10 hours we recommend as per the manual. If you fail to do so, it is a fairly expensive piece of equipment, so you want to make sure to grease that main PTO shaft. But then there's three other PTO shafts that, again, you want to make sure that you grease them daily. With that main CV though, there's a telescoping point in the center that you want to rotate and make sure you can find the grease zerks and do that roughly, I'd say every 20 hours to 2 weeks. Also the quick connect that goes onto the spline, the PTO spline of your tractor, you want to do that as well every 20 to 50 hours. The wheel bearings actually come packed in grease, so they're not as much a concern daily or weekly as probably once per year. But the actual hubs have points on them that need to be greased roughly every 1 to 2 weeks, again, probably every 50 hours. There are also pivot points, on the wings that will need grease every 20 hours. And roughly and I forgot to mention, but on the wheels, there's the deck spindles each mower of the three mowers will have 4 spindles apiece that need a pump or two of grease probably once a week as well. So those are sort of the main areas or the main service points or maintenance points for the mower. In terms of the gearboxes, they come the front splitter is a 66 horse gearbox, and each mower deck has a 30 horse gearbox. They come filled with SAE 90 oil. Those roughly we'd like the users to check them at least once a week just to make sure oil levels are at the levels they're supposed to be, and as well, I would say maintenance once per year. Obviously, change the oil on the gearboxes. That should kind of go without saying, goes hand in hand with what's in the manual, but not everyone reads the manuals, so hopefully that common sense might prevail once in a while too.
All right. And how well does the mower contour with the ground in uneven terrain?
It's actually one of the reasons for the design of putting three finishing mowers together on a single yoke that will allow a flexion between the different mowers. So one side might flex to say 20 degrees upwards at a smaller hill. One side might flex up to 40 degrees. The top flexion is 40 degrees, but each mower on the three decks operates independent of one another. So as you encounter different terrain, it's going to float over rolling hills and terrain, and especially I guess for golf courses or keeping large acreage fields clean, that's very important because not only does the mower float, but each deck's been designed and designed to let airflow come through underneath the decks and make sure that the finish and the cut product disperses evenly out the back of each deck, so that as it's floating, it's cutting evenly along each surface that it's encountering. Because I guess no two terrains are the same, no two areas or golf courses or fields are the same. So we don't want to create a product that can just be used for flat surfaces. It the hitch also allows extremely tight turns to cast two clevis. Allows extremely tight turns, and the mowers are sort of designed to allow you to turn in and out and around trees and obstacles without any issue. And between each deck, even though they're floating at different angles, there's 8-inch overlaps between the decks to make sure that no cut product, or there's no missing any cut product, no open swaths are left in terms of what you are cutting and what you are working with. So and really cut heights, depending on the user, can be set at 1.5 to 4.5 inches. So with the flexion, the mower deck overlap, and the cut heights, what we're aiming for and what we're providing the product for is to provide a nice, clean, consistent finished cut that you can count on in year one at field A, and year two at field B, year three. No matter what time frame or what area you're cutting, basically you can depend on that final cut.
Well, thanks for joining me today, Corey. I appreciate your time, and I hope that the next time we meet can be in person at a real live event.
Definitely, it was a pleasure meeting you as well, and I'll gladly come and shake your hand.
Right on. With me today is Corey Timchuk from Farm King Industries. Welcome, Corey. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. Can you tell me about a bit about this mower being demonstrated here today?
The mower being featured today with the versatile Nemesis is our actual, it's our basically the 1530 Flex Wing, and it's our largest heavy workhorse, largest basic rotary cutter that we have in our lineup with flexible wings. So the mower itself cuts to a 4-inch cutting capacity, which is commercial duty, and features a very heavy 250 horsepower center splitter gearbox, slip clutch protected, obviously, and the wing gearboxes are 190 horse each. Basically, the unit, you'd roughly need about a 65 horse, 70 horse tractor to pull the unit, safely pull the unit, and Yeah, it's main intended use are your roadsides, your roadways, ditches, pasture land, crop clearing, any of those areas where you need a real workforce and you're going over ground and terrain that is rough, uneven, heavy. Again, that commercial cutting capacity of 4 inches comes into play as it can take through weeds and saplings and trees up to that 4 inch size.
Right. And what is the regular maintenance requirements for a mower like this?
What you're going to look for is definitely you're going to want to focus on the drive lines and focus on the drive lines. I would say daily. This is this is a heavy use rotary cutter. You're taking it through heavy situations. Those drive lines you want to ensure are properly greased on the ends on your cross and bearing points. You're going to want to make sure those are greased daily. Your gearboxes, you're definitely going to want to check out that 250 horsepower. Check the levels probably at least once a week. They do come filled with SAE 90 oil, but you'll still want to check those. Check the levels weekly. At the end of the season, we do recommend doing a full oil change on each of the gearboxes. In terms of, I had mentioned the drive lines. Any of the sorry, I had mentioned the drive lines, but hadn't mentioned how the wings flex and how the pivot points on the deck. But you're going to want to grease those pivot points as well because those will get a lot of work going in through different terrains, different fields, different ditches, and encountering, obviously, as I mentioned, trees or weeds or anything of that nature. So you're definitely going to want to grease up those points, and because each forgot to mention again, but each deck will operate independently of another, and they both flex and have a 25-degree flexion up and 25-degree flexion down. So that's where greasing those points is very, very important. In terms of the actual your tires and your wheel hubs, again, should be greased. I would say every 2 weeks, every 50 hours. And the actual bearings on the wheels, those come packed in grease. So nothing's really required for the first year of use, but then your regular maintenance yearly, those should be repacked every year, especially for what you're going to be taking a rotary cutter through.
And what sets the 1530 FlexWing apart from competitive mowers?
What really sets it apart is what we've taken and learned from our design and our finishing mowers. And whereas more competitive mowers, they tend to focus on having a slower tip speed, a slower speed on the blades. In terms of how the blades operate, roughly you're looking at 15,000 to 16,000 feet per minute as a tip speed. With us, we've taken it in a different direction and actually provided one of the highest tip speeds in the industry at closer to 17,000 feet per minute. And we have a blade overlap that's at 7 inches, which no other flex wing mower or all flex mower can meet within the rotary cutter sector within the commercial setting of a 4-inch cutting capacity. We believe that even though you're going through rough areas, rough terrains with this flex wing and encountering trees, encountering rocks, you still take pride in your cut. So what we've really focused on is we do have a very heavy gauge unit, 7 gauge, quarter-inch thick side skirts that are also extremely heavy, and a heavy stump jumper underneath to protect the blades. But in doing that, we also have focused on the finished cut and have focused on providing blades with a 7-inch overlap so that when you're turning or in tight radiuses, there's no missed cut pass.
Well, thank you for your time today, Corey. I appreciate it. And I hope that the next time we meet can be at a real live demo somewhere.